Senator Merkley. Oh, good, even better. Ladies first.
You know, we do everything in the Senate in order of seniority. So my friend,
bad manners.
Senator Merkley, is kind enough to recognize that I have more seniority than he does. So thank you, Senator Merkley. And thank you, Senator Wyden and Senator Lujan, for all of your excellent work and for the effort to ensure that all Americans have access to affordable health care when they need it. You know, I want to speak just to the enhanced premium tax credits that are going to expire at the end of this year, because what did not happen when our Republican majority passed the reconciliation bill is they did not extend those premium tax credits. And refusing to do that means that health care coverage is being actively taken away from families who really need the help. It means raising costs for millions of Americans at a time when they're already struggling with increased costs. And that pain, as Senator Wyden said, is being felt almost immediately, because insurance companies are looking at having to submit their rates, and they are increasing their rates. Premiums will increase for 20 million Americans. A typical family of 4 will see a $10,000 increase when those premium tax credits go away, and a typical 60-year-old couple would see a $17,000 increase. So think about that. Parents, grandparents are going to see $17,000 increase. And because of those increased costs, Americans are going to lose their health care coverage. The nonpartisan data shows us that 4 million Americans will lose their health care. More than 1 million of them suffer from chronic illnesses. So if they don't have health insurance, who's going to pay for that coverage to make sure they get their treatment? Well, everybody's going to pay for it. And that's on top of the unprecedented health care cuts to Medicaid that were passed as part of that bill. I heard from one of my constituents, Jen, from North Conway, New Hampshire. North Conway is a small community in the eastern part of New Hampshire. Her story, I think, shows just how important these tax credits are, because Jen was diagnosed with leukemia. She started getting chemotherapy to treat it, and she was able to, because of the Family Medical Leave Act, she was able to take time off from her job for 3 months. But then, because FMLA ended, she lost her job. And when she lost her job, she lost her health care coverage. Her husband had to act as her caregiver, but then he had to go back to work, and his employer didn't provide health insurance. But the way Jen was able to continue her chemotherapy was because she and her husband were able to afford health insurance under the Affordable Care Act because of those premium tax credits. They lowered Jen's premiums by $700 a month, and they allowed her to continue her chemo treatments. And look, when the reconciliation bill was debated and we saw the tax breaks for the wealthiest and the big corporations, a lot of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle didn't think $700 a month was very much money. But I can tell you, for Jen and her husband, $700 savings each month, $8,000 a year is the difference between being able to continue to have the health care they need, continue to put food on the table, continue to pay their rent, and losing all of that. But most important, the tax credits were there when she needed them, when she got sick, when she could no longer work. So the clock is ticking. We first introduced the legislation on this issue back in 2019. We've secured temporary extensions that have helped fuel record enrollment in the Affordable Care Act. But we're approaching another deadline, and we need to take action now to permanently extend those tax credits and to end the back and forth every year that people know, so people know they can count on them. So thank you all.
Well said, Jean. Jeff Merkley.
Back when I came to the Senate in 2009, we had a President Obama, and a Senate that said, hey,
let's really work towards the vision of everyone in America having the opportunity to have affordable, quality health care. And in April of 2009, Frank Luntz put out a memo, and he was a strategist, and he says, whatever Democrats are doing, let's call it a government takeover. Whatever they do, we'll call it a government takeover, because we've done focus groups, and that scares people. Well, I quickly saw how scared people were as I started doing the town halls following Senator Wyden's example of a town hall in every county in Oregon every year. And people were terrified. They were showing up in extraordinary numbers and so angry. Why would you take over our health care? And I'd say, you know, and they'd say, why don't you listen to us? I'd say, okay, I'll listen to everybody in the room. And I'd say, I'll recite some of the provisions of Obamacare, and you can tell me step forward, step backwards. Cover pre-existing condition, 80% of the room, rural Oregon, angry people. Oh no, that piece we like. And your children being on your policy to age 26. Oh, 80% of the room. Oh yeah, we like that. And I went through different provisions, but two of the provisions that were engaged here was one, tax credits to help middle-class families buy health care. Oh yeah, universally. We really like that. And expanding Medicaid in order to cover the gap between our less affluent families that currently have Medicaid and middle-class families who will be able to buy health care in exchange. No, that's great. And a side benefit, a lot more revenue flowing into our rural clinics and our rural hospitals. So 2009, a blue trifecta says, let's fill in the gaps and make sure that everyone in America has opportunity to have health insurance so that when they need medical care, they'll be able to get it. Now let's turn the clock from 2009 to 2025. And we have a red trifecta. And what is their message? Let's tear down health care so millions of American families will suffer. 2009 blue message. Let's fill in the gaps so everyone has health care when they need it. 2025 Republican message. Let's tear it down and let families suffer. That's the extraordinary distinction. And that's why we are here at this moment to say we need to reverse what my colleague just called Trump care, what was done in the big, ugly betrayal of a bill where it tore down the ability to provide those premium tax credits under Obamacare, when it proceeded to put in danger Medicaid across the country by changing how states could provide matching funds to keep Medicaid going. What does this mean when a family loses health care? It means, well, they often have to choose between paying their rent or buying their groceries or paying their health insurance, going broke. They have a medical condition and they don't have health insurance, now they're in big, big trouble. You know, we're the only developed country in the world in which people routinely declare bankruptcy because of medical conditions, even with what we have succeeded in doing since 2009. But this big, ugly betrayal of a bill took us the opposite direction. What else happens? Rural health care suffers. We saw last year in Baker City, Oregon, a maternity care ward shut down. People are going to have to drive 70 miles, and in winter that highway is often shut down in order to deliver a baby. How scary is that? Pretty damn scary. And that was with expanded Medicaid. What happens if that's not there? What happens when you lose Medicaid coverage for 15 million Americans? Well, I can tell you what the experts are saying. They're saying 300 rural hospitals and clinics will be at risk of either shutting down or greatly curtailing their resources. That's the authority, the Shep's report, a real authority on rural health care. So this is wrong. It does so much damage to the quality of life of so many people. I hate the fact that we will hear stories about people who didn't go when they had a condition, and 6 months later, that small lump turned into ravaging breast cancer, or so many other possibilities when you don't get care early and effectively. So that's why we're here to say, hell no. Hell no to the big, ugly betrayal of Americans. Let's restore the cuts that were torn down, that were established, the savaging American health care in that bill, and let's apply those enhanced premiums to keep health care affordable for middle-class Americans. The numbers for Oregon, for people buying health care on the exchange, it will be a 68% increase in their premium, about $1,300 a year on average. That's a deal breaker for many families. Let's not let that deal breaker happen. Thank you.
Look, y'all, little more than 3 years ago, I survived a stroke. And there's a lot you learn when you get a little dizzy, you can't stand up, you don't know what the hell's going on. Unfortunately, my sister happened to be next door at my mom's house and got me to a hospital quickly. Because it turns out when you have a stroke, time's not on your side. If they don't treat you right away, you might not get better like I got better, like I was blessed to heal. And what Republicans did in ripping away health care with this vote a couple weeks ago is they're jeopardizing more and more loved ones across America, not just those that might suffer a stroke, but other challenges that they may have where time's not on your side, where instead of going to a rural health clinic that might be 30 miles away, you might think 30 miles. Well, I come from rural America. 30 miles is close. And now these facilities are going to be hours and hours away. If I had to drive hours away to get to a hospital, I'd be dead today. I would not be here. I probably would not have survived. So why are my Republican colleagues saying to the American people, oh no, don't you worry, you can trust us, we're not going to rip your Medicaid away? And then in the dark of night, boom, they cast a vote and they lied to their constituents, they lied to my constituents, and now these rural health clinics across America are jeopardizing enclosure. And then what about everyone else who might not be able to afford care? What happens if they need help the most? And there's other families across America that do everything they can to take care of their loved ones when they can. Stay home. Stay with mom. There's healthcare providers here today that are home healthcare workers that fill in that gap, that provide more and more support to our loved ones, because loneliness is also something that can terrify you. But if you have a slip and a fall, something that Jean, as governor, she took advantage of her strength and knowing power to bring people together to say, we're going to find a better way to provide help to people in homes. Well, my Republican colleagues here just ripped that all away. It's not right. So I simply want to say thank you to my colleagues around us, to Leader Schumer, to Ron Wyden, and all others that see a path forward to restore these important programs, because it really is a difference between life and death. 60 years ago, some of our colleagues got together and said, you know, we can do something better in America. We can make sure that if someone gets sick, that they might be able to take advantage of some care, or be able to go see a doctor through the idea of this program called Medicare and Medicaid. And it grew, and it grew, and it provided more certainty and support to our loved ones. And in one vote that was successful, my Republican colleagues just tore it away. I want to thank my Democratic colleagues for standing strong and showing the American people that we're going to stand by them, that we are on their side, and we're going to get these programs restored.
Well said.
Ben Ray is strong. Anyway, it's great to be here, and I want to thank Senator Wyden for helping lead this event, Senators Shaheen and Merkley and Lujan, who've said great words. And also, if you've been an advocate working hard to make sure that people know exactly what's happened, raise your hands. Thank you, thank you, thank you for what you have done. We need you. And we're going to have we need you all of August to pound away at this issue and let people know how bad it is. The more people know about it, the more they hate the big, ugly betrayal. And now more and more people are knowing about it because of the work done by my colleagues here, my whole Senate caucus, the House Democratic caucus, and all of you. So thank you very much. Look, I mean, it's hard to believe that people could be in this bubble, these right-wingers who are in the House and the Senate. I mean, to take away people's health care, do they know what that means? Do they know what it's like to have a daughter with cancer and Medicaid or ACA is paying for your treatment, and all of a sudden it's ripped away, and that $2,000 cap, which we all worked so hard to install, is gone in January? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? My child is going to die. Why? Tax breaks for billionaires. Tax breaks for billionaires is why they did this thing. They have no rationale for it. They talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, and they can't find very much because there isn't. There's some. We want to get rid of it, but it's not close to even a tenth of what they said they needed to cut. The idea that people could find health care elsewhere? Bull, why do you think this was passed? Because for 2 centuries, America didn't have poor people, elderly people getting health care, and they were dying. And the fact that our life expectancy is so much longer and we live longer and healthier, one of the most important reasons, if not the most important reason, is we have Medicare and Medicaid. People are getting the health care they need. And what would the average American say they most want? I'll tell you what I would for my family and me: a long, healthy, good life. Taken away. So it's just unbelievable what these people are doing. The good news is that the American people are on our side. Every day, more and more of them come over to our side. This idea, folks, that there's no difference between Democrats and Republicans is utter bull. Just look at the vote. Every Democrat voted against the cuts. Every Republican voted for the cuts. I don't care if these Republicans said, well, it's not, I don't really like it, but I have to go along with Trump. Trump, who has no understanding of what average people go through and is in his own little bubble talking to his rich friends. Oh, yeah, I hear someone say, well, I talked to my driver. He's happy with things. Yeah, who's paying him? So we really need to, on this day, on this commemorative day, when, as was mentioned before, I think by Jeff, that Democrats and Republicans got together and said we have to pass Medicaid and Medicare, is a day that will be one of the great days in American history, and we can't let it go away. The fight is not over. We're just in the middle of it. We're going to fight, fight, fight until we win. And I want to thank our dear advocates as well, because they bring the personal knowledge to people of what this is. This isn't abstract. This isn't numbers. This is people in their lives, what they want the most: health for themselves, their children, their loved ones, their friends. We're going to fight until we win this fight. Join us. I know you are. Thank you.
We'll stick around and take a few questions, but the leader's juggling a little bit, and we're going to hear now from the little lobbyist, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Senators. Thank you, Leader Schumer. And thank you to our partners, Caring Across Generations. Thank you to the friends watching on the live stream. Hello. I am Elena Hung. I am the Executive Director and co-founder of Little Lobbyists, which is a national family-led organization advocating for children with complex medical needs and disabilities. I am better known to some of you as Xiomara's mom. So thank you all for commemorating the 60th anniversary of Medicaid with us today. Medicaid is a life-saving program for millions across the country, including our Little Lobbyist children. And now I am honored to introduce a Little Lobbyist family. Chelsea Anders lives in Pennsylvania with her husband and 2 children. In 2023, Chelsea and her family made the very scary decision to leave their roots and community behind in Texas and relocate to Pennsylvania, where they knew no one. And the reason they did it was simple: to be able to access Medicaid and get the best for their daughter, Olivia. Chelsea?
So as you can, she's queen waving to everybody, just so y'all know. This is Olivia. She is quite the little firecracker. She just graduated from the 4th grade at Starkweather Elementary in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and She is whip smart. She's super opinionated. She loves to socialize. She's like having a ball right now. These trips to DC are maybe more fun for her than they are important to us, right? But we're here to make sure that everyone sees her and sees who is affected by Medicaid every day. So she loves to bake. She loves to sit on our deck and overlook a golf course and gossip and make fun of all the people that hit the balls into our yard. She also has cerebral palsy. As you can see, she uses this bright purple wheelchair for mobility. She also has a feeding tube that she uses for her nutrition, and she needs to be monitored for seizures that, like Senator Lujan shared, if she has a seizure and she can't get to a hospital in time, she also dies. So she uses a mix of communication tactics. She has an AAC device, and she also uses her own version of American Sign Language, which you might see, it's a very sassy version of American Sign Language is what we call it. You know, I'm not exaggerating when I say that Medicaid has saved her life on multiple occasions. She was born early. She went straight to the NICU. She spent 6 weeks there, and we wouldn't have been able to afford that without Medicaid. Our private insurance covers very little of her disability-related needs, so Medicaid picks up all of those things for us. It pays for her formula, her incontinence supplies, the medical equipment she needs. It pays for therapies at school. It pays for a nurse to attend with her so she can be an active and productive member of her community, both at home and at school. You know, it's also a relief knowing, and this is something that keeps us up at night, what happens to Olivia and how does Olivia afford her own care after we're gone? If Medicaid is not there to provide that safety net for her, what's gonna happen? She goes to an institution, she's no longer allowed to be a part of her community, and all of this potential that we see for her is gone. It's gone. We wouldn't be able to do the things that we do with her, like bringing her here today, without the support of Medicaid.